So you've been receiving unsolicited offers to purchase your property. So what the heck does that mean? That's what we're going to explore in today's video. Hi, my name is Henry. I'm from Hot Homes. We're the husband and wife team based here in Rockville, Maryland, as well as serving the DC metropolitan area, focused in Montgomery County. And today we're going to explore these unsolicited offers to purchase your property. So I actually have one from one of our friends who received a handful of these. He receives them on a regular basis. I'm not going to mention the company or the person's name, but I will read off what this, it's a handwritten postcard. Most of them tend to be just template letters that were printed in mass. So, dear, and then has the homeowner's name. I'm with some sort of company, and I'm interested in buying your house for cash. Underline. There are no commissions to be paid, and we'll pay all typical closing costs. And then insert company's name again. We buy houses at a discount, but when we buy them as is. You don't have to clean, paint, or fix a thing. So if you're interested in no hassle cash sale, call me today for a free no obligation consultation. Sincerely, some sort of name, and then of course a phone number. So this is pretty in line with the type of things that a lot of people are receiving, especially nowadays where there's such an inventory shortage. So we're going to divide today's video into a few different categories. I'm going to be referring to some of my notes here, but we want to explore, number one, who are these letters actually coming from? Number two, is it a scam? Number three, if I want to sell, what are my options? Number four, steps that you can take. Number five, what can actually go wrong? And then just a basic summary at the very, very end. So let's jump right into it. So number one, who are these letters actually coming from? So there are three primary categories. So the first, and oftentimes least likely, it's going to be a real estate agent. So oftentimes licensed real estate agents are investors themselves, or they might be looking to get a listing, or they might actually have some buyers in the area who are looking to purchase. So they'll write letters to some of the homeowners in the area. Again, not as common, but it happens. The second and probably most common area where you're going to receive these letters are from investors. So these are real estate investors who are looking to purchase a home low, do some renovations themselves, and then sell the house for a profit, or end up renting it out and then make a profit from that. And then number three is a category that's actually been increasing over time, is the real estate wholesalers. So I'm not going to go into exactly what real estate wholesaling is, but essentially they are people who find deals, get a home under contract, but they themselves are not purchasing the house, and then sell the contract off to another person, whether it's an investor or an agent or another home buyer. And then they, as a middleman, keep the profit in between. So number two, is it a scam? Most of these are actually legitimate, believe it or not, but everybody's intentions are different. So with a real estate agent, they are oftentimes looking for a listing or a home for their buyer. So their financial incentive is directly tied in with the results. So the home actually needs to sell for them to actually make a profit. Now, it's going to be the same with the others, of course, but the investor, their primary purpose is profit. Like, that matters more than anything else. So the lower that they can buy your home, and the more profit that they can make when they sell for as high as possible. And if those numbers don't work out, then they're not going to purchase your home. And then number three, the wholesalers, they're looking to get in between. They're looking to wedge themselves within a deal. So they're going to try to get you low and then do some calculations to see how much of a fee that they can charge to then resell it off to somebody else, oftentimes an investor who's, again, looking to purchase below market value and then make a profit in the middle. So that's, again, wholesaling. So these are all legitimate areas of business, but there are lots of areas where scams can occur. So that's just one area that you need to be a little bit careful when you're reviewing these letters. Now, let's say you actually receive something like that. You've been thinking about selling, but you don't want to go through the headache of listing your home. So what is my best option? So the better question that you should actually be asking is, if something were to go wrong, what recourse do I have? Because not everything always goes smoothly. So number one, with an agent, a licensed real estate agent is legally held to ethical standards. So you can go, if they mess something up, number one, if they are your listing agent and you have a signed representation agreement, they are legally bound to represent your interests and only yours. they can't represent the buyer unless they bring another buyer, and that becomes a state-specific rule. Now, if they mess something up, then you can go directly to the agent or their brokerage or their local real estate board. So there are a lot of areas where you can areas of recourse for you in case something ends up happening that goes wrong. Now, an investor, they're not subject to those type of rules. Anybody can be an investor. They can start, they can run in their business through themselves, or oftentimes most of them will do an LLC. If they do get sued, then you end up suing that LLC, and then their liability is limited, hence LLC. Now, the wholesaler, you'd also directly sue them. However, that gets a little bit more complicated because they're not the buyers themselves. So if something goes wrong, there's actually multiple parties then that get involved, and the wholesaler themselves are not going to be the direct party that you're going to be working with. They are finding the buyer and then basically acting as the middle person between the deal. And that's, again, where it gets a little bit more complicated, and it highly depends on how the deal is structured. So there's a lot of gray area, and because of the prevalence of these online gurus and how easy it is now just to create a course, make it look premium, charge a bunch of money, get a bunch of testimonials for it, and people all of a sudden think that you're a high-class guru, there are a lot of people who can present themselves to actually be a lot more experienced than they really are. So just be careful with that. So again, if something goes wrong, think about what type of recourse that you have and the liability that you might be responsible for. So here's some basic steps that you can take, because again, this is not all just like a big scare or a big scam. So number one, when you receive, and if you decide to move forward with an offer that you receive, you can reach back out to them and be very direct with them. Are you a licensed real estate agent, or are you an investor or wholesaler? Now, a thing to note is that oftentimes wholesalers will have a lot of different ways of basically avoiding telling you that they are a wholesaler. So just be aware of that. And if they don't seem to be directly answering the question, then they probably fall into the wholesaler category versus an investor or a real estate agent. If you've ever talked to any real estate agent, they are not shy about telling you that they are a realtor. So number two, then you can request a CMA from a local licensed real estate agent that you trust. Now, I would highly recommend against using online estimates, even just to get a ballpark figure. Number one, real estate agents will do a CMA for free. Like, you can find a ton of real estate agents who will do that. So there's no reason for you not to go in that direction. And also, the online estimates have no idea about what the inside of your home looks like, or what the conditions are, any other factors that might be impacting home values, as well as the market trends that are specific to your neighborhood. So it always behooves you to talk to a licensed real estate agent who knows what they're talking about and can actually give you the numbers. Now, this is important because even if you end up just working with a wholesaler or an investor, you yourself want to come in informed and know what the numbers are. You don't want to go in and be leaving a bunch of money on the table when you could actually yourself be doing some other work and hiring other people to then maximize the amount of money that you walk away with at the end of the day. The goal from getting a CMA is to know the maximum of what you could be getting for selling your house and by putting it on the open market. You don't ever necessarily want to play all of your hands and tell the investors and wholesalers that you prefer not to. You always want to keep it within your, play it within your cards that you actually might want to just sell the home on the market for the maximum amount of profit. So once you know the maximum that your house can sell for, stand firm on what your needs are. Keep in mind that the most attractive thing that a real estate investor or wholesaler can offer you is a all-cash, no contingency offer and a quick close, depending on what your needs are. What they're going to sell you on is that you don't have to list your home on the market or pay commissions or have a bunch of people walk through your home on a Saturday. And sometimes just the convenience of that and the lack of headache is going to be worth it to you more so than maximizing the amount of money in your pocket at the end of the sale. So now, what can go wrong? Okay, so number one, contract terms can get very tricky. You never know what terms are going to be in your favor necessarily, unless you really look through and comb through the contract and how it's written. And remember, whatever you sign is going to be legally binding to you. So even if afterwards you're reviewing the contract and say, oh, I don't agree with this, if you've already signed off on it, you're already under contract. Now, real estate agents, the big plus to using them is that the forms are very consistent. The person, the form that you used and the form that your neighbor used are going to be based on the same template, same ideas. They might update a few terms here and there depending on how the market changes. Now, number two, another thing that can go wrong is going to be latent defects. So what if there is something like a foundation issue due to water constantly eroding your exterior and then also beginning to make your foundation buckle? Well, and let's say you didn't know about that, but it's something that gets discovered by whoever purchases your home. Well, even if you've already signed away the keys, they've lived in the home, but then that issue gets discovered and they can track it back and prove that somehow you knew about it and still sold the home to them in that condition, then you actually would be liable for that. However, in real estate, often a lot of areas will have some sort of disclosure documents that you can give to the buyers, basically saying, here's what we know about the house, and pretty much everything else we don't know if there are any issues. Number three, you don't necessarily know who you're going to be working with. You don't know who the bank is unless it's going to be a large bank. Even if they're bringing cash to the table, those type of documents can be forged. The title company, you don't necessarily know if they are a reputable title company or not. And of course, the real estate lawyer, if they're bringing lawyers into the conversation, if you haven't vetted them yourself or you haven't used them yourself, you really won't know much about their reputation. You're going to kind of have to take their word for everything. Number four, another thing that can go wrong is there might be jurisdictional laws or procedures that need to be in place specific to your particular area, neighborhood, what have you, your municipality. And if those things are not clear, then it actually might cloud the title and prevent you from actually completing the sale of the home. And then number five, you won't have anybody, since you're not hiring a licensed real estate agent, you're not going to have anybody to actually represent your needs, to look through everything and make sure that your needs and that your interests are actually protected throughout the process. Now, of course, if you're hiring a real estate lawyer, then they might actually be able to do that. But remember, you need to make sure that they are representing you, that your relationship to them is that they are protecting your interests and confidentiality. So in summary, are those letters illegitimate? No. You just want to be careful. Real estate can get extremely complicated and convoluted. And there's a reason why, despite the Amazonification of everything, you can buy pretty much everything online, real estate agents still make a healthy living. And the reason is that it's one thing where you just can't plug and play a bunch of factors and come out with a clean contract, despite a lot of companies trying to do that. So another thing to keep in mind, that there's a reason why even lawyers to this day still hire realtors to represent them when they're selling their house. So was this video useful? Have you been receiving letters like this, or have you received anything that's also been kind of interesting? I'd love to hear it in the comment section below, so feel free to write it in there. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.